Hello, friends! Here for another story today. I know I always say this, but today is a very special story to me. I even tried to find a tire that somewhat went with this story. It's my husband's. But it was the most wild thing looking shirt that I could find, and I think I just gave away my story. But today we are reading Where the Wild Things Are. And this story and pictures, so it's written and illustrated by the same person. This is by Maurice Sendak. You know, this story just always brings a special memories to me. Mostly about my not so little brother, and I say not so little because he's a lot bigger than me these days. But this was one of his very favorite stories. It's one of my favorite stories, and it just makes me think of my own childhood, which is always fun to go back to. So, without further ado, let's get started because I love this story and it's been way too long since I've read it. So I'm excited to share this with you today. So, Where the Wild Things Are. If you have not heard this story before, I am so excited that you are sharing this with me because it's so special. Where the Wild Things Are. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind. Making mischief, so he's making trouble. And another. What is he doing to that poor dog? His mother called him Wild Thing. And Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to bed without eating anything. Oh. Does Max look happy about that? No, sir. That very night in Max's room, a forest grew. Can you imagine? His bedposts became tree trunks. So cool. And grew. Wow, you can barely even see his bed now. What is going on? And grew until his ceiling hung with vines and the walls became the world all around. Wow. And an ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max, and he sailed off through night and day. Through night and day, so he's been sailing for a while. And in and out of weeks, and almost over a year to where the wild things are. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars, they gnashed their terrible teeth, and rolled their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws. They sound terrifying. What do you think? What would you think if you rolled up on a boat and saw all of those wild things? I think I might be a little scared. Till Max said, "Be still," and tamed them with the magic trick of staring into their yellow eyes without blinking once. And they were frightened, and they called him the most wild thing of all. Max is very brave. and made him king of all wild things. And now, cried Max, let the wild rumpus start. So rumpus is like a party. Oh man, look at this. Does it look like they are having fun or what? They are dancing all night, having fun all day. I love these pictures. Having a good time for sure. Now stop, Max said, and sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. And Max, the king of all wild things, was lonely and wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. Then all around, from far away across the world, he smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being king of where the wild things are. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." And Max said, "No." The wild things roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. But Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye. And sailed back over a year and in and out of weeks and through a day. So he had to make that really long journey back home. There he goes. And into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him. Now how does Max look? Different from the beginning of the story. And it was still hot. And that's the end of Where the Wild Things Are. Okay, friends, so you know I like talking about little lessons that I get from our books that we read. And this story gives me a lot of little lessons I can take away. For one, and this is a good tool as being a good reader. If you don't remember something or you just want to read something again, it's okay to go back in the book and remind yourself. So I'm going to read this passage for you one more time. It says, "And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws." Now, do those wild things sound like the same wild things shown here? No, they ended up being really nice and taking Max as their king and accepting him, even though he looked different and was smaller and was dressed different. So this story, I feel like, is a great story about not judging someone or something by its appearance, by their appearance, because sometimes things might look scary or big and intimidating and be really fun and be nice. Another thing I kind of love about this story is there's a wild thing in all of us, and that's okay. Sometimes we just gotta let it out and accept it and calm back down and we're good. But there is a wild thing in all of us, and you know what? Let it out, have fun, and come back down when you're ready. And I love this story lastly because Max is just shows an amazing imagination, the way he turns his bedroom into this forest and goes on this huge journey, which I think is a great thing books do for us. take us out of our rooms, out of our worlds, and take us on these journeys. And I love that through this journey, he's able to kind of get an understanding about himself. He left being mad, maybe mad at his mom for sending him up to bed without dinner. He was maybe mad at having to live in a house where he has no control, and so he wanted to escape somewhere where he has all the control and he can send things up to bed without any food. But he realized about himself that he loves having his mom around and his home, and at the end he realizes that there's just no place like home, and sometimes we just need to step out of things in our life to realize how great they are. Which I love that Max goes on this self journey and has a great time, but realizes what's important and goes back to it. So I just love this story. I think there's so much we can take away from it. Plus, it's just an amazing story. I love the pictures and I love it. So I hope you enjoyed this story with me today, and share it with some of your loved ones. Share it with your friends. Reread it. Go back through the pictures and just keep living, keep being a wild thing, but keep remembering what's special and what's good. So thank you for joining me today, friends. I see all of you. Thank you so much. And I will see you for our next story time. Bye.